What's happening, boys and girls? It is me, J.G. Tate. I am publisher / Commodore at auburnsports.com, and it was a day of news on the Auburn Zoom world. Yes, indeed, Bryan Harsin took some time to answer questions from reporters. Today, a lot of it, of course, was about COVID, but also some stuff about the team. We got a sneak peek at a depth chart at a very important position for them that he gave us, so that is something we'll talk about a little bit later in the show, but the most important news around Auburn these days is about Bryan Harsin testing positive for COVID-19 late last week, and he has been isolating at home. He did his Zoom today from the house, as you guys will see here in just a minute with a couple of these clips, and he said he's feeling fine, but nonetheless, he's isolating. He's planning to come out of isolation next Monday, assuming everything goes as planned. So a little bit of work to do left this week. They're going to have the open practice on Saturday that you guys are welcome to come to, by the way. We'll put more details about that on the bunker so you guys can make sure and check that out if you get there. But today, let's talk about Harsin a little bit. He was very straightforward in addressing his feelings about the vaccination itself. Didn't necessarily discuss whether he has been vaccinated or not, but he did say very clearly that he's not persuading kids to avoid the vaccine. Quite the opposite. Take a listen.
First, let me be clear. I am not anti-vaccine, and any narrative along those lines is misinformed. I fully support the choice for anyone to vaccinate. Also support getting reliable data-driven information into the hands of those who still have questions about the vaccine. Anyone who has been in our facility knows that. Simple. For months now, our staff has done a great job going above and beyond and being proactive in providing reliable information to our players, our coaches, our staff about the vaccine. I provided an open platform for experts to come in and present information to speak to our players and staff about the vaccine.
All right, so not much room for interpretation on that one. He said he is not anti-vax. I don't know that a lot of people out there, social media, press, even on the bunker at auburnsports.com, have really tried to say he was anti-vax. I think he has just been vague and nebulous when it comes to his feelings about the vaccine, and he just hasn't been super vocal about what his role has been. I don't think he's that guy anyway, right? I think he prefers to kind of do his work, and you can judge him on the results. And he's not someone who's big into grandstanding. That's just really not what he's about. He's about the work, and he's about the numbers, about the wins and the losses. He knows that's how you're going to judge him, and so that's kind of how he's judging himself. There are people out there, you guys know who I'm talking about, who believe that he should be on the front of the train waving the flag saying, everybody get vaccinated today, and if you don't, you're an idiot or whatever. The way that Charles Barkley did the other day. Of course, Barkley is a different dude with a different role, okay, at a different point in his career. And he could say that. Harsin has not done that. People have been critical of him. But you heard his answer today. His answer is, I'm not anti-vaccine. I've done everything I can to get intelligent, useful people in front of my players and all the athletes at Auburn, by the way. Doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, and immunologists, all kinds of people to talk and present to these players and let them make their own decision. That is the way Harsin is going about it. And whether you think that's the right thing or the wrong thing, I'm not here to judge you or even judge him about this. That is how he's doing things. He had a little bit more perspective to add a little bit later in the Zoom call about, for the people who think he should be standing on front of the train, waving that flag. He said, listen, Alabama law doesn't allow me to do that. I'm not sure he would do it anyway. Here's how he explains it.
You know, the most important, is the safety of our players and the safety of the people in our building. And just know this, we can't issue mandates to our student athletes, and I understand this to be Alabama law. I understand that, we cannot mandate vaccinations to our players. Other states and universities can. We can't do that. So that's not a football coach's decision. All right. That's a state by state, university by university decision. All right. And I'm aware of that. So, and that's important that we understand that. I have a deep appreciation for our medical staff and what they're doing and how they're operating each and every day. And I've got a deep appreciation for the people in our community that are taking care of all of us.
All right, so again, very clear. I like that about Bryan Harsin. You know where he stands. Sometimes he's a little loquacious, but he definitely gets to the point insofar as he doesn't BS around the answer. He will give you the answer. And in that situation, you can see that in other schools, he feels like the head coach can be a guy that compels players to do things like this. He cannot and he will not. So that's the way it's going to be. A couple other things from COVID that he mentioned. He didn't get into the percentage of the team, like what their percentage is at right now. We've been told at auburnsports.com the number's a lot lower than they would like. 85 is the number you're looking for from the SEC perspective. That's when testing becomes a little more infrequent and therefore makes you in a better position, at least potentially from a competitive standpoint, because they're looking for positives, right? And the less tests you're having to deal with, the less likely you are to lose a player or players to a positive test. So that's something you're looking out for. We believe Auburn is way below the 85%. Harsen did say today that there have been more vaccinations lately, but very carefully avoided saying how many and how often, which is fine. I mean, it's, whatever. So that's just going to be a concern moving forward. I don't think they're going to get to 85%. They're so far away unless there's some kind of big paradigm shift among the players that have not been vaccinated to this point. You never know. You hear the right thing, the right people tell you the right thing. It unlocks a lot of or eases a lot of concerns, and maybe a lot of things happen very quickly. We'll just have to see as we get closer to that opener against Akron. We'll talk a little bit about football here now. He did give us a little bit more of a depth chart feel at offensive line, which we'll go over here in a minute. But I asked him about Chandler Wooten, who was named today along with Owen Papo as a permanent team captain. Now, they're going to have 3 or 4 each game, but it's always going to be Papo and it's always going to be Chandler Wooten. 2 linebackers, 2 seasoned linebackers, which I found interesting to have 2 defensive players as your permanent captains. I think it tells you a little bit about this team and the way it's going to be set up. But Chandler Wooten, what a story. He sits out last year. He opted out of the season, and you think he's probably behind. Comes into spring, has to kind of earn his teammates' trust back, has to get back into shape for football. He really dug through, man. He came in shape, fought hard all the way through spring. That was his first, his first experience with this coaching staff. Had to kind of win them over. And Harsen spoke very candidly about the early conversations he had with Chandler Wooten. You don't hear coaches say this very often. I want you to listen to this soundbite.
So let me tell you, my first meeting with Chandler, I knew that about him. So, I'm questioning his commitment. The first time I met him, and just understand this, I didn't know him. And we had a great conversation. He's a family man. And I said, what is it about you that, I need to know? And he said, well, I can lead. I'm a leader. And, from that point on, and he is part of our Tiger Club. He is on the leadership group. From that point on, I don't know what it was. I think he and I connected. But he's been exactly that ever since I've known him. He works hard. He shows up every day. I've got a deep appreciation for him. I care tremendously for him. I see him as obviously a football player on this team, but just as a man, as a father. And this was a special moment for him.
Yeah, I like that candor, saying that he did initially question Wooten's commitment to the program, to college football. And they had a series of conversations. Sounds like leading up to spring ball and then all the way through spring ball. And he's become, as you heard Harsen say, he's on the leadership committee for the team, which doesn't surprise me at all because Chandler's that way. I mean, he's the guy I would want representing me, honestly. And he's a great football player, and he certainly has the respect of his teammates. So it's awesome to see him getting this. And definitely a great kind of a comeback story in a way. I think a lot of people, that would have been a very challenging situation, but for Wooten, no problem. I like to try to keep this thing at 10 minutes, so we're having to hustle here a little bit. But Harsen did late in the Zoom call, kind of give a little bit of information on the offensive line depth chart. I'm going to pull up our offense depth chart here. This is not official. The situation at the offensive line has to be close to official because those 5 positions Harsen mentioned today specifically and gave us these layouts. Troxel and Killian Zier at left tackle. Brandon Council and Alec Jackson still competing at left guard, but Council definitely has a little bit of an edge there. Tate Johnson again. Harsen didn't mention him, but he's just kind of working his way up. He's a young player. Obviously, Nick Brahms, who's the most seasoned guy on this line, playing center, and Jalil Irvin behind him. Keandre or KJ Jones at right guard with Tayshawn Manning, who has been working at left guard some too. Looks like he's, at least right now, going to be the second choice there. Harsen also mentioned Cam Stutz being a guy who's been a factor at right guard as well. And then Brodarius Ham and Brendan Coffey at right tackle. So that's the way the situation is shaping up on the offensive line. There are still some plenty of practices to go. One more pseudo scrimmage, but I don't know as though these guys are really going to compete a lot in that one. It's basically going to have to be practice work that changes things right now. So that's the group you're looking at on the offensive line. These other positions are just kind of me thinking out loud and trying to take the data we get from practice and put a pen to paper. Try to give people a look at how things are going on the offensive side of the ball. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you spending some time with me today, getting a couple clips from Bryan Harsin and a look at the new offensive line, at least the line they're going to have going into the Akron game. If you guys enjoy the content here, please subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. Give me a thumbs up if you like it, and we will continue to do these as well. Thank you for spending some time with us. Take care. Be good. Peace.